Korean Mafia boss never admitted his feelings until his black maid started coming home late. The arrangement. The rain drummed against the bulletproof windows of the penthouse, creating a rhythmic pattern that echoed through the spacious living room. Min Jun sat in his leather chair, a glass of whiskey untouched on the mahogany table beside him, his dark eyes fixed on the city lights below. At 34, he had built an empire that most men could only dream of, an empire forged in shadows, maintained through fear and protected by absolute loyalty. He was known throughout Seoul's underworld as the Ice King, a man whose heart was said to be as cold as winter frost. No one had ever seen him smile, not genuinely. No one had ever heard him laugh. And certainly, no one had ever seen him vulnerable. The sound of keys jingling the lock made him glance toward the entrance. It was exactly 9:47 p.m., 13 minutes earlier than usual. Amara pushed through the door, her arms laden with grocery bags, rain droplets clinging to her dark skin and the thick curls that escaped from beneath her hood. She was breathing heavily, having climbed a private stairwell rather than waiting for the elevator, something she did when she thought she was running behind schedule. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Kong," she said breathlessly, kicking off her soaked sneakers by the door. The market was packed, and then the rain started, and... "You're early," Min Jun interrupted, his voice flat and emotionless as always. Amara paused, blinking water from her long lashes as she looked at the clock on the wall. "Oh." A small smile crossed her face. "I guess I am." She didn't wait for a response before heading to the kitchen, leaving a trail of wet footprints on the marble floor. Min Jun listened to the familiar sounds of her unpacking groceries, the gentle humming that always accompanied her work, the soft patting of her feet as she moved with practiced efficiency through his space. It had been 8 months since she'd arrived at his door, 8 months since his previous housekeeper had retired and his right-hand man, Dune, had somehow found this American woman who needed work and a place to stay. "She's trustworthy," Dae-young had assured him. Background check came back clean. No family in Korea, no connections to any organizations. "She's here on a teaching visa that fell through when the school closed. She needs money. You need someone who can keep their mouth shut. It's perfect." Min Jun had been skeptical. A foreigner in his home, in his sanctuary, seemed like an unnecessary risk. But Dae-young had been insistent, and Min Jun trusted his judgment more than anyone else's. That first day, Amara had stood in his foyer with her single suitcase, her dark eyes meeting his without the fear he was accustomed to seeing. She was tall, 5'9", he'd guessed, with rich brown skin that seemed to glow even in the dim lighting of his penthouse. Her hair had been pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she'd worn jeans and a modest blouse, nothing flashy or attention-seeking. "Mr. Kong," she'd said, extending her hand. "I'm Amara Williams. Thank you for this opportunity." He'd stared at her hand for a moment before shaking it briefly. Her grip had been firm, confident. "The rules are simple," he'd told her. "You see nothing. You hear nothing. You speak of nothing that happens in this apartment to anyone, ever. Your room is on the east wing. You're responsible for meals, cleaning, and laundry. You stay out of my office and the west wing entirely. Questions? What time would you like breakfast?" she'd asked. That had been it. No fear, no prying questions, no nervous energy. Just practical acceptance of the situation. Now, 8 months later, Min Jun found himself unconsciously tracking her movements throughout the penthouse. He told himself it was merely security awareness, the same vigilance he applied to everyone in his orbit. But he couldn't quite explain why he noticed when she changed her shampoo, or why he found himself timing his late-night walks to the kitchen to coincide with her early morning preparations. "Mr. Kong?" Amara's voice pulled him from his thoughts. She stood in the doorway, drying her hands on a towel. "I made extra japchae tonight. Would you like me to bring you a plate?" "I'm not hungry." "You haven't eaten since breakfast," she said matter-of-factly. "And you barely touched that." Min Jun's jaw tightened slightly. "I don't recall asking for your observation." "No, sir, you didn't." She disappeared back into the kitchen. 5 minutes later, she returned with a plate of steaming japchae, perfectly seasoned and arranged. She set it on the table beside his untouched whiskey, without a word, and turned to leave. Amara, she paused, looking back at him with those disconcertingly direct eyes. Why did you come to Korea? He asked, surprising himself with the question. A flicker of something, pain, perhaps, or memory, crossed her face. I needed a fresh start, she said simply, far away from everything I knew. Running from something? Running towards something, I hope. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Is there anything else you need tonight, Mr. Kong? He shook his head, and she disappeared down the hallway toward her room. Min-jun looked down at the plate she prepared. Despite himself, he picked up the chopsticks and took a bite. It was perfect as always. Everything she did was executed with quiet competence and an attention to detail that he found unsettling. No, not unsettling. Something else. Something he refused to name. He finished the plate in silence, the rain continuing its assault on the windows, and tried not to think about the fact that, for the first time in years, his penthouse felt less empty when she was in it. Part 2. Cracks in the Ice. The following weeks passed in their usual rhythm. Min-jun conducted his business with ruthless efficiency. Meetings in secure locations, phone calls that lasted mere minutes, decisions that affected the flow of money and power throughout the city. And through it all, Amar maintained his household with the same quiet competence, a steady presence that never intruded but was always there when needed. It was a Thursday evening when the routine first shifted. Min-jun returned home at 6 o'clock, earlier than usual. A deal had fallen through, requiring him to eliminate a problem before it grew larger. The details were handled by his men, but the order had come from him, as it always did. He carried that weight, as he always did, with no outward sign of the burden. The penthouse was filled with the scent of something savory, galbi jim, if his nose was correct. He found Amara in the kitchen, her back to him as she stirred a large pot on the stove. She'd changed from her usual casual wear into a simple black dress, and her hair was twisted up in an elegant bun that exposed a graceful curve of her neck. Going somewhere? He asked from the doorway. She jumped slightly, turning with a hand pressed to her chest. Mr. Kong, I didn't hear you come in. She glanced at the clock. You're early. Answer the question. Oh, yes, actually. She turned back to the stove, adjusting the heat. My friend Sarah, she's another American teacher here. She invited me to dinner. It's her birthday. I prepared your meal for the evening. It just needs to simmer for another 20 minutes. And then... You didn't ask permission. Amara's stirring slowed, then stopped. She set the spoon down carefully and turned to face him fully. You're right. I apologize. I assume that since my contract stipulates I have 2 evenings off per week, and I haven't taken any time off in the past 3 weeks, it would be acceptable. May I go? There was no defiance in her voice, but no submission either. Just calm reasoning, as if she were negotiating a business deal rather than asking her employer for an evening out. Min-jun studied her for a long moment. The logical part of his mind knew she was well within her rights. The illogical part, the part he refused to acknowledge, wanted to say no. What time will you return? Midnight at the latest. 11. 11:30, she countered. The restaurant is in Gangnam, and it will take time to get back. His eyes narrowed. No one negotiated with him. Ever. Except, apparently, his housekeeper. 11:30, he agreed. Dae-young will drive you. That's not necessary. It's not a suggestion. He pulled out his phone and sent a quick text. He'll be here in 15 minutes. Amara opened her mouth as if to argue, then seemed to think better of it. Thank you, Mr. Kong. She finished preparing his dinner in silence, showing him where everything was and giving him instructions he didn't ask for and didn't need. Then she disappeared to her room, emerging 5 minutes later with a light jacket and a small purse. Dae-young arrived precisely on time. As always, he was a mountain of a man, 6'3" with shoulders that barely fit through doorways, his face marked with scars from a life of violence. But when Amara smiled at him in greeting, he smiled back with genuine warmth. Miss Williams, he said with a slight bow. Ready? Thank you for this, she said, glancing back at Min-jun one more time. I'll be back by 11:30. After they left, Min-jun stood in his empty penthouse, listening to the silence. He walked to the kitchen and uncovered the pot she prepared. The galbi jim was perfect, the meat falling off the bone, the vegetables cooked precisely to his preference. He ate at the kitchen counter rather than his usual spot in the living room, and found himself glancing at the clock every 15 minutes. At 10:47 p.m., his phone rang. "Speak," he answered. "Boss." De-Young's voice was tight. "We have a situation." Min-Jun was on his feet instantly. "Where?" "The restaurant. Some of Lee's men are here. They recognize me." The Lee organization was a minor gang that had been pushing into Min-Jun's territory for months. He'd been patient, gathering evidence of their operations, preparing to eliminate them completely rather than engage in a drawn-out war. But if they'd seen De-Young with Amara, "Is she safe?" "Yes, I got her out the back. We're 2 blocks away, but they're following." Min-Jun was already moving, grabbing his jacket and keys. "Lose them. I'm en route." He took his private elevator down to the garage, where his black Mercedes waited. The engine roared to life, and he pulled out into the street with controlled urgency, his mind calculating distances and routes. De-Young was good, the best, but Lee's men were desperate, and desperate men made stupid decisions. If they managed to grab Amara, they'd have leverage. They'd have a way to hurt him. The thought sent ice through his veins. No, not ice. Something hotter. Something dangerous. His phone rang again. "De-Young, we're in the alley behind the old textile factory on Terranaro. I've got 3 on foot, maybe more in vehicles nearby." 5 minutes, Min-Jun said, pressing the accelerator harder. He arrived in 4. The alley was dark, lit only by a single flickering streetlight. He spotted De-Young's car immediately, recognized the 3 figures approaching it. Min-Jun parked at the alley's entrance, blocking the exit, and stepped out. "Gentlemen," he called out, his voice carrying clearly in the quiet night. All 3 men froze, then turned. Even in the dim light, he could see their faces pale as they recognized him. "Mr. Kong," the one in front stammered. "We didn't know we weren't." "You weren't what?" Min-Jun walked toward them slowly, his hands in his pockets, his expression serene. "You weren't following my man? You weren't preparing to attack him? We just wanted to talk." "About what?" The man fell silent. Min-Jun stopped 10 feet away from them. "Go back to Lee. Tell him that his grace period has ended. Tell him I've been patient because I prefer to eliminate problems completely rather than partially. Tell him he has 48 hours to leave Seoul, or I will remove myself. Do you understand?" All 3 nodded frantically. "Good. Now leave." They ran, stumbling over each other in their haste to escape. Min-Jun waited until they were gone before walking to De-Young's car. His right-hand man lowered the window, looking sheepish. "Sorry, boss. They must have had someone watching the restaurant. We'll discuss it later." Min-Jun's eyes moved to the passenger seat, where Amara sat with her arms wrapped around herself, her earlier elegance replaced by visible tension. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "No, I'm fine. Just shaken. Get in my car. De-Young, take a different route back. Make sure you're not followed." "Yes, boss." Amara hesitated for only a moment before following Min-Jun to his Mercedes. She slid into the passenger seat, and he noticed her hands were trembling slightly as she buckled her seatbelt. They drove in silence for several minutes, the city lights streaming past the windows. "I'm sorry," Amara finally said, her voice quiet. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You didn't cause anything." Min-Jun kept his eyes on the road. "Those men made a choice. They'll pay for it. Because of me." "No." He glanced at her briefly. "Because they disrespected me. Because they thought they could operate in my territory without consequences. You were simply there." She was quiet for another moment. "What you do, your business. People get hurt, don't they?" "Yes." "People die." "Yes." "Doesn't that bother you?" Min-Jun considered the question. Most people never asked him directly. They either knew and accepted it, or they were too afraid to question him. "I operate in a world with specific rules," he said finally. Everyone who enters that world knows the stakes. I don't hurt innocent people. I don't target civilians. But those who choose this life, they accept the consequences. That's a convenient philosophy. There was no judgment in her tone, just observation. It should have angered him. Instead, he found himself respecting her honesty. Perhaps, he conceded, but it's the truth nonetheless. They arrive at the penthouse, and he led her up the private elevator. Once inside, he poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed her one. She took it without comment and drank deeply. "I've never seen someone so scared that they ran away from you without you even threatening them," she said, settling onto the couch. They looked like they'd seen a ghost. They saw something worse. They saw their future if they didn't comply. And what future is that? One that ends much sooner than expected. Amara studied him over the rim of her glass. "You really are the Ice King, aren't you? That's what they call you in the newspapers. The articles that never quite name you, but everyone knows who they're talking about. You've been reading about me. I got curious. About who I work for." She took another sip. "You're quite famous. Or infamous, depending on who you ask. And what did you conclude from your research? That you're either a monster or a myth. Possibly both." She set her glass down. "But tonight you came for us. For me, that doesn't seem very monstrous. I protect what's mine." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning Min-Jun hadn't intended to convey. Amara's eyes met his, and something shifted in her expression. Not fear, not attraction, something more complex. Understanding, perhaps. Recognition of a truth neither of them was ready to speak aloud. "Thank you," she said softly, "for coming, for keeping us safe." He nodded once, not trusting himself to speak. She stood, smoothing her dress. "I should get some sleep. It's been quite an evening." "Amara," she paused at the hallway entrance. "No more evenings out. Not until this situation with Lee is resolved." Her jaw tightened slightly. "That's not fair." "No," he agreed. "It's not, but it's necessary." For a long moment, she looked like she might argue. Then she nodded once. "Understood, Mr. Kong." After she disappeared down the hallway, Min-Jun remained in the living room, his whiskey forgotten. He pulled out his phone and sent a single text to his operations manager. "Lee Organization. All assets. 48 hours. The response came immediately. "Understood." Min-Jun told himself it was about respect, about maintaining his position, about sending a message to anyone who might consider challenging him. He told himself it had nothing to do with the fear he'd felt when Dae-Yoon called, or the relief when he'd seen Amara unharmed, or the way his hands had clenched in the fists at the thought of anyone threatening her. He told himself many things that night. None of them were true. Part 3. Shifting Foundations. The Lee Organization was eliminated within 36 hours. Not violently. Min-Jun had learned long ago that spectacular displays of force brought unwanted attention from authorities. Instead, their assets were frozen, their operations exposed to rival gangs, their leader presented with evidence that would guarantee a lengthy prison sentence if certain files reached the police. Lee took the hint and fled to Busan, effectively surrendering Seoul without a single shot fired. Through it all, Amara maintained her routine within the penthouse, though Min-Jun noticed she no longer asked about going out. She cooked, cleaned, organized, and hummed her way through the days with the same quiet efficiency. But there was a new awareness between them now, a recognition that had been birthed in that dark alley. She knew what he was capable of, and she was still here. 2 weeks after the incident, Min-Jun found her in his study. She shouldn't have been there. The study was off limits, part of the West Wing he'd explicitly forbidden her from entering. Yet there she stood at his desk, her hand hovering over a folder of documents she absolutely should not see. "Amara." She spun around, her eyes wide. "Mr. Kong, I was just... The cleaning service missed this room last week, and I thought... You thought you'd ignore my explicit instructions?" "No, She took a breath, steadying herself. "You're right. I'm sorry. I should have asked permission first." He walked into the room slowly, watching her carefully. She didn't try to make excuses, didn't cry or panic. She simply stood there, owning her mistake, meeting his gaze with that same direct look that had intrigued him from the beginning. "What did you see?" He gestured to the documents on his desk. "Nothing. I swear. I came into dust, saw the papers, and immediately went to leave. That's when you arrived." Min-Jun moved to his desk and checked the folder. It was sealed, undisturbed. Either she was telling the truth, or she was an excellent liar. He chose to believe the former. "This room is off limits for a reason," he said. "The information here could get you killed. Not by me, but by people who would assume you know more than you do. I understand. Do you?" He leaned against the desk, studying her. "Do you understand that the moment you walked into this apartment, you became part of my world whether you wanted to or not? That people will see you as leverage, as a weakness to exploit." "Is that what I am?" she asked quietly. "A weakness?" The question caught him off guard. "What?" "You came for me that night. You eliminated an entire organization because they threatened your man while he was driving me. You forbidden me from leaving the penthouse. So I'm asking, is that because I'm your employee, or is it something else?" Min-Jun felt the foundations of his carefully constructed walls begin to crack. "You're reading too much into—" "Am I?" She took a step closer. "Because from where I'm standing, it feels like you're protecting me specifically. Not just as an asset, but as something more. You work for me. That's all." "Okay." She nodded slowly. "Then I'd like to request a transfer." The words hit him like a physical blow. "What?" "If I'm just an employee and my presence here is causing complications for your business, then the logical solution is to find me a different position, perhaps with one of your associates who needs household staff. Or you could provide a reference, and I could find work elsewhere in the city." No. The word came out sharper than he'd intended, loaded with an emotion he couldn't name. Amara tilted her head slightly. "Why not?" "Because—" Min-Jun struggled to find a rational explanation. "Because you know too much about my operations, about my schedule, my habits. That information could be valuable to my enemies. So I'm a prisoner? You're protected. Those could be the same thing, Mr. Kong." They stared at each other across the study, the air thick with unspoken truths. Finally, Min-Jun straightened. "You're not a prisoner. You're free to leave whenever you choose. But if you do, I can't guarantee your safety. There are people who would use you to get to me, whether you work for me or not. At least here, I can protect you. And if I don't want your protection, then you're more foolish than I thought." Amara's jaw clenched. "I'm not some damsel in distress who needs a knight in shining armor. I came to Korea alone. I've survived this long, without anyone's protection. You've survived because you've been anonymous. That changed the moment you walked into my life. So this is my fault?" "I didn't say that." "You implied it." Min-Jun closed his eyes briefly, fighting for control. He wasn't used to this, to arguing, to feeling defensive, to caring what someone thought of his decisions. "I'm not your enemy, Amara," he said finally. "Despite what you may think, I'm trying to keep you safe." "I know." Her voice softened. "But you can't keep me locked up forever. That's not living. That's just existing." She walked past him toward the door, but paused at the threshold. "For what it's worth," she said without turning around, "I'm grateful. For the job, for the safety, for everything. But I'm also a person with my own life and my own agency. I need you to respect that, even if it scares you. I'm not scared." She looked back at him then, and her smile was sad. "Yes, you are. And so am I. But we can't let fear dictate how we live." After she left, Min-Jun stood in his study for a long time, staring at nothing. She was right. He was scared. Not of his enemies, not of the violence and chaos that surrounded his world. He'd made peace with those things long ago. He was scared of what he felt when he looked at her, scared of the way his chest. But he was Min-Jun Kong, the Ice King, and such admissions were impossible. "I want you to be careful," he said instead. Amara's shoulders sagged slightly. "That's all. That's all I can offer." She studied his face for a long moment, as if searching for something. Then she nodded once, picked up her bag, and walked toward the door, Amara. She paused but didn't turn around. Take Dae-young with you. No, please. The word was unfamiliar in his mouth. Strange and awkward. He couldn't remember the last time he'd said it. Amara looked back at him, surprise evident on her face. What? Please, he repeated. Take Dae-young with you. Not as a guard. As a friend. Someone who knows the city, who can help if you need it. Why? Because I'm asking. She continued to stare at him, and he felt exposed in a way he'd never experienced before, as if she could see past all his carefully constructed defenses to the uncertainty beneath. Okay, she said finally. I'll take Dae-young. After she left, Min-jun stood in his empty kitchen, a cup of coffee growing cold in his hand. He pulled out his phone and called his right-hand man. Boss! Dae-young answered on the first ring. Where are you? Downstairs, waiting for Miss Williams. Good. Stay with her. Keep her safe. But... Min-jun hesitated. Give her space. Don't hover. Let her breathe. Understood. There was a pause. Boss, can I speak freely? When have you ever needed permission? You care about her. It wasn't a question, but Min-jun answered anyway. Is it that obvious? To me, yes. To her. Dae-young chuckled softly. I think she knows but doesn't want to believe it. She's scared too, boss. Of you, of this world, of what she's feeling. I don't want to ruin her life. Then don't. But also don't push her away because you're afraid. That'll ruin both your lives. After hanging up, Min-jun spent the day attempting to work, but his mind kept wandering. He checked his phone obsessively, waiting for updates from Dae-young, wondering where Amara had gone, what she was doing, whether she was thinking about him at all. At 4 o'clock, his phone buzzed with a text from Dae-young. We're at the Han River Park. She's painting. Painting? Min-jun hadn't known she painted. Another text. She's good. Really good. You should see this. 10 minutes later, a photo came through. It showed Amara sitting on a portable stool, an easel set up before her. Her face focused and peaceful as she worked on a canvas. The painting itself was visible in the image, a stunning landscape of the river, capturing the way the afternoon light played across the water. Min-jun stared at the photo for a long time, memorizing every detail of her expression. Another text from Dae-young. She's been out here for 3 hours. Says it helps her think, helps her process things. Thought you should know. Min-jun set the phone down and walked to the window, looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, Amara was creating beauty, finding peace in a simple activity that had nothing to do with his world of violence and shadows. She deserved better than this, better than him. But the thought of her leaving, of waking up to an empty penthouse, of never hearing her voice again. His phone rang. Unknown number. Speak, he answered cautiously. Mr. Kong. The voice was unfamiliar, male with a slight accent. We haven't met, but we have a mutual interest. I doubt that. Don't hang up. This is about your housekeeper, the American woman. Min-jun's blood went cold. If you touch her... Relax. I'm not threatening her. I'm offering you information. A pause. Your Miss Williams isn't who she claims to be. Explain. Not over the phone. Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m., at the coffee shop on Samsung RO. Come alone. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, someone else will approach her with this information. And unlike me, they won't be interested in just talking. The line went dead. Min-jun immediately called Dae-young. Bring her home. Now. Boss? What's wrong? Just bring her home. They arrived 20 minutes later. Amara looking confused and concerned as she entered the penthouse, her painting supplies still in hand. What's going on? She asked. Dae-young said it was urgent. Min-jun looked at her, really looked at her, searching for signs of deception, of hidden truths. But all he saw was genuine concern and confusion. Who are you? He asked quietly. What? Who are you, Amara? Really? Her brow furrowed. I'm me. I'm Amara Williams, from Atlanta, Georgia. I came to Korea to teach English. The school closed. I needed work, and Dae-young connected me with you. You know all of this. Do I? He moved closer. Or did you tell me a convenient story, one that would get you close to me? Hurt flashed across her face. You think I'm some kind of spy? Some plant sent to infiltrate your organization? I don't know what to think. I received a call. From who? Someone who claims you're not who you say you are. Amara set down her painting supplies carefully, her hands shaking slightly. And you believe them? Just like that? After 8 months of me living here, cooking for you, cleaning for you, respecting your privacy and your rules, you're willing to believe a random phone call over everything you've seen? In my world, paranoia keeps you alive. And in mine, trust is how you build relationships. She laughed bitterly. But I guess that's the difference between us, isn't it? You live in a world where everyone is a potential enemy, and I'm just naive enough to think people can be good. Amara? No. She held up a hand. You want to know who I really am? Fine. My full name is Amara Jasmine Williams. I was born in Atlanta on June 15th, 1993. My mother died when I was 12, cancer. My father raised me alone, worked 2 jobs to put me through college. I got my degree in education from Georgia State University. I came to Korea because I needed to escape a bad relationship, because I needed to prove to myself that I could be independent, that I could start over somewhere completely new. She pulled out her phone and thrust it at him. Here, my photos, my messages, my emails. Read them all. Investigate me. Run background checks. Do whatever you need to do. But know this, I have never lied to you. Not once. And the fact that you think I have, that hurts more than anything else in this entire messed up situation. Min June looked at the phone she was offering, then back at her face. Tears were gathering in her eyes, though she was clearly fighting to keep them from falling. I'm sorry, he said softly. Are you? Because it feels like you were looking for an excuse to push me away. Like you were hoping I'd turn out to be some villain, so you wouldn't have to deal with whatever this is between us. That's not, isn't it? She lowered her phone. You're scared, Mr. Kong. I get it. You built this empire, this persona, this wall around yourself. And I'm a threat to that because I make you feel things you're not comfortable feeling. So yes, please investigate me. Confirm that I'm exactly who I say I am. And then maybe, just maybe, you can stop fighting this and admit that you care. She walked past him toward her room, but he caught her arm gently.